Caroline Crouch, a name that once symbolized joy, promise, and adventure. But in a tragic twist of fate, her life was brutally stolen in the quiet suburb of Glycera, Athens. What appeared to be a random home invasion soon unraveled into a chilling tale of betrayal and deceit. Join me as I delve into the shocking details, dissect the evidence, and uncover the harrowing truth behind the murder of Caroline Crouch. This is a story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about trust and love. Welcome back to Chilling Fireside Stories. Here I bring you some of the most gripping and unsettling true crime tales to explore together. Before I begin, a quick warning. This documentary contains sensitive content, including details of violence and other distressing themes. Viewer discretion is advised. As always, remember to stay tuned until the end of the video, where I'll display related images and visuals to help bring this story to life. So get cozy, grab a warm drink, and let's dive into today's chilling tale. Caroline Crouch was born on July 12, 2001 in Liverpool, England, to her British father, David Crouch, and Filipino mother, Susan Della Cuesta. The family later moved to the picturesque island of Alonissos, Greece, when Caroline was 8 and she grew up surrounded by the beauty of nature. David Crouch was a retired oil executive from the United Kingdom who moved to Greece to embrace a more relaxed lifestyle. Susan Della Cuesta, Caroline's mother, was originally from the Philippines. She was known to be a caring homemaker who played a significant role in Caroline's upbringing, ensuring that Caroline had a strong foundation and connection to her heritage. From a young age, Caroline was known for her adventurous spirit. She excelled in school, was fluent in multiple languages, and had a passion for fitness and animals. At 15, she met Bobish Anagnostopoulos, a 26-year-old helicopter pilot. Despite their significant age difference, their relationship quickly became serious. Bobish Anagnostopoulos, whose full name is Charalambos Anagnostopoulos, was born on June 12, 1988 in Athens, Greece. He came from a middle-class family and grew up in Porto Rafti, a coastal suburb of Athens. He was the youngest of 3 siblings and appeared to have had a stable upbringing. Bobish studied at a private aviation school in Greece and became a commercial helicopter pilot. His career as a pilot gave him access to a comfortable lifestyle, and he often shared pictures on social media showcasing this, portraying himself as a professional and stable individual. On the surface, Bobish appeared to lead a respectable life. Friends and colleagues described him as polite, calm, and sociable. His clean-cut, disciplined image made him seem like a trustworthy and reliable partner. However, as events unfolded after Caroline's murder, this public persona was revealed to be a carefully constructed facade, hiding manipulative and controlling tendencies. Bobish met Caroline Crouch in 2017 when she was just 15 years old, during a visit to her home island of Alonissos. During a Good Friday parade in 2017, Bobish wooed her with grand gestures, including flying a helicopter over her school. To a young, impressionable Caroline, Bobish seemed like the man of her dreams. Despite the significant 11-year age gap, they began dating, and Bobish quickly became a central figure in her life. While Caroline's parents were initially wary of the relationship, they eventually gave their approval, particularly as Bobish appeared responsible and caring. Caroline Crouch and Bobish Anagnostopoulos were married on July 15, 2019 in Portugal, specifically on the Portuguese island of Alonissos, where Caroline had spent much of her childhood. It was reportedly a small and intimate ceremony with close family and friends in attendance. At the time of their wedding on July 15, 2019, Caroline Crouch was 18 years old, and Bobish Anagnostopoulos was 31 years old. Caroline and Bobish settled into a quiet suburban home in Glycera, Athens. Caroline Crouch and Bobish Anagnostopoulos welcomed their daughter Lydia on June 3, 2020. Caroline was just 19 years old at the time and Bobish was 32. The birth of Lydia was initially seen as a source of joy for the couple. Social media painted a rosy picture of their lives. Family vacations, smiles, and celebrations, but later reports revealed that Caroline found adjusting to motherhood challenging. She reportedly struggled with postpartum depression and feelings of isolation, which were exacerbated by tensions in her marriage. Bobish Anagnostopoulos' relationship with his daughter Lydia was complex. While he initially appeared to be a loving father, there were underlying issues in his behavior. Caroline's therapist revealed that Caroline had become suspicious of Bobish's frequent absences and suspected him of having an affair. Caroline's concerns about Bobish's behavior and their relationship were significant enough that she sought therapy. Caroline's diary, later recovered by investigators. The diary contained heartbreaking entries describing emotional abuse, control, and frequent arguments. Caroline felt trapped in her marriage, expressing her desire to leave Bobish on several occasions. In one entry she wrote, "Today my little one hugged me. I told Bobish I want to leave him. I hope he will not stop me." Despite her struggles, Caroline remained devoted to her daughter, often sharing tender moments between the two. On May 11, 2021 at around 4:30 a.m., Bobish made a frantic emergency call, claiming that masked intruders had broken into their home in Glycanera, a suburb of Athens. According to his account, the intruders tied him up, tortured them for money, and then killed his wife, Caroline, as their 11-month-old daughter Lydia lay nearby. The scene inside the house was horrific. First responders found the family's beloved dog, Roxy, strangled and hung from the staircase. Caroline lay face down on the bed, lifeless, with her infant daughter crying beside her, trying to wake her mother. Bobish was found on the floor of the main bedroom, bound and blindfolded with duct tape. The house had been ransacked, with drawers upturned and a Monopoly board game box, the hiding place for €10,000, left open. The initial response from law enforcement was one of shock and urgency. The brutal nature of the crime and the presence of a young child made the case a high priority. Police and forensic experts meticulously examined the crime scene, gathering evidence and searching for any clues that could lead to the perpetrators. The community was left in fear, and media coverage of the incident was extensive, with many speculating about the motives and identities of the supposed intruders. As investigators began to piece together the events of that night, inconsistencies in Bobish's account started to surface. The lack of forced entry and the precise nature of the supposed intruder's actions raised suspicions. Despite Bobish's detailed description of the attack, forensic evidence did not align with his story. The timeline of events and the placement of objects in the house suggested a more orchestrated scenario. These discrepancies would soon become crucial in unraveling the truth behind Caroline's tragic death. Caroline Crouch's funeral took place on May 14, 2021, on the island of Alonissos, where she grew up. The deeply emotional service was attended by her family, friends, and local residents who came to pay their respects and say their final goodbyes. The funeral took place at the Agia Paraskivi Church, and the island came to a standstill as shops and businesses closed in a mark of respect. Caroline's parents, David Crouch and Susan Della Cuesta, were overcome with grief and supported by friends and relatives. Throughout the service, the black hearse carrying Caroline's body arrived covered in white roses, symbolizing purity and remembrance. Bobish Anagnostopoulos, Caroline's husband, attended the funeral with their 11-month-old daughter, Lydia. In a poignant moment, he helped Lydia lay a flower on her mother's coffin. During the service, Bobish delivered a moving eulogy, expressing his sorrow and the profound impact of Caroline's death on their family. As for the investigation, the case was taken over by the Crimes Against Life Department of the Hellenic Police. A reward of €300,000 was offered for information leading to the capture of the robbers. During the first days of the investigation, a 43-year-old man, a citizen of Georgia, was arrested as he tried to cross the border into Bulgaria with a fake passport. However, no evidence connecting him with the case was found. The investigation team employed advanced forensic techniques and interviewed numerous witnesses to piece together the puzzle. They analyzed security footage from the neighborhood, checked phone records, and conducted thorough searches of the crime scene. The investigation also included psychological profiling to understand the possible motives behind such a brutal act. Despite their efforts, the lack of substantial leads made the case increasingly complex. Family and friends of Caroline and Bobish were questioned extensively. Those who knew the couple described their relationship as passionate but often tumultuous. Some friends revealed that Caroline had confided in them about her struggles and the controlling nature of her husband. These testimonies added a new dimension to the investigation, suggesting that the crime might not have been a random act of violence but rather a calculated move stemming from within the household. As days turned into weeks, the pressure on the police to solve the case intensified. The media continued to follow the story closely, and public opinion was divided. Some sympathized with Bobish, viewing him as a grieving widower, while others began to question his involvement in the crime. The mounting evidence against Bobish eventually reached a tipping point, leading to a breakthrough in the investigation. As the investigation progressed, inconsistencies in Bobish's story began to emerge. Police found that the memory card from the surveillance camera located on the ground floor of the residence had been removed. Data collected from a fitness tracker on Caroline's wrist showed that her heart had stopped beating before the alleged break-in took place. Tracking data from Bobish's phone also showed him moving from the attic to the basement of the house and back again, despite claiming to have spent all night tied to the bed. Data from a security camera at the home also showed its memory card had been removed at 1:20 a.m., hours before the alleged break-in took place. Forensic analysis further contradicted Bobish's account. Blood spatter patterns and the placement of objects in the house did not align with the narrative of a violent struggle. Instead, they pointed to a more controlled and deliberate act. Investigators also found inconsistencies in Bobish's behavior during his interviews. His responses were often evasive, and he displayed signs of nervousness that raised red flags for the detectives. The investigation took a significant turn when psychological profiling suggested that Bobish's actions were indicative of someone trying to cover up a crime rather than a victim of an attack. The pressure mounted on Bobish as the evidence against him grew stronger. Friends and family of Caroline provided additional context about their relationship, painting a picture of a man who was increasingly controlling and manipulative. It was during the memorial ceremony on June 16, 2021, Bobish Anagnostopoulos attended to honor Caroline Crouch's memory. The ceremony took place on the island of Alanissos, where Caroline had grown up. In a deeply emotional moment, Bobish was seen hugging Caroline's mother, Susan Della Cuesta, during the service. Shortly after this poignant interaction, police officers approached Bobish and asked him to accompany them to the police station for further questioning. It was at this point that the police arrested him. Bobish was taken into custody and transported to Athens, where he was interrogated. After 8 hours of police interrogation, Bobish confessed to the murder. He admitted that he had suffocated Caroline to death and hanged their puppy Roxy. He claimed he lied because he did not want their daughter Lydia to grow up without parents. On June 22, 2021, Bobish was imprisoned on charges of murder and animal abuse. Bobish's confession detailed the chilling events leading up to Caroline's death. He described how a heated argument escalated into a violent confrontation, during which he lost control and suffocated Caroline. Bobish Anagnostopoulos went to great lengths to stage the robbery and make it appear as though intruders had broken into their home and murdered Caroline Crouch. Here are the detailed steps he took to create the false crime scene. Bobish removed the memory card from the surveillance camera located on the ground floor of their residence. This was done to eliminate any evidence that could contradict his story of a home invasion. He ransacked the house to make it look like a robbery had taken place. Drawers were pulled out and items were scattered around to give the impression that the intruders were searching for valuables. Bobish tied himself up and blindfolded himself with duct tape. He claimed that the intruders had bound him, but forensic evidence later showed that the bindings were self-inflicted. In a particularly cruel act, Bobish strangled the family dog Roxy with its leash and hung it from the staircase. This was meant to add to the brutality of the supposed home invasion and make his story more believable. Bobish placed their 11-month-old daughter Lydia next to Caroline's lifeless body. This was intended to evoke sympathy and further support his narrative of a violent home invasion. After staging the scene, Bobish made a frantic emergency call to the police, claiming that masked intruders had broken into their home, tied him up and killed Caroline. He maintained this story during initial police interviews and even during the memorial service for Caroline. Despite his efforts, inconsistencies in his story began to emerge. Data from Caroline's fitness tracker showed that her heart had stopped beating before the alleged break-in took place. Tracking data from Bobish's phone also showed him moving around the house during the time he claimed to be tied up. Confession. Faced with mounting evidence and inconsistencies in his story, Bobish eventually confessed to the murder after hours of police interrogation. He admitted to suffocating Caroline and staging the scene to look like a robbery gone wrong. Bobish's elaborate staging of the crime scene was ultimately undone by forensic evidence and his own inconsistencies. His actions were driven by a desperate attempt to cover up the murder and avoid losing custody of his daughter. Bobish was charged with premeditated murder, child endangerment, and staging a false crime. During the trial, Caroline's diary entries were presented as evidence of Bobish controlling and manipulative behavior. Prosecutors painted him as a narcissist who couldn't bear losing control over Caroline. In May 2022, Bobish was sentenced to life in prison, plus an additional 11 years for his other crimes. Bobish Anagnostopoulos is currently serving a life sentence in Korydallos prison, a maximum security facility located just outside Athens, Greece. He was convicted of the murder of his wife, Caroline Crouch, and received an additional 10-year sentence for killing their dog. Despite his conviction, Bobish has been working on getting his sentence reduced, hoping that good behavior might lead to an earlier release. After the tragic events surrounding Caroline Crouch's murder, their daughter Lydia's custody became a significant concern. Initially, there was a legal battle over who would take care of Lydia. Bobish Anagnostopoulos' parents sought custody, but their request was denied by the court. Lydia is now living with Caroline's family. Specifically, she resides with Caroline's mother, Susan Della Cuesta, and her sister in the Philippines. The court decided that this arrangement was in Lydia's best interest, ensuring she would be raised in a loving and stable environment far from the traumatic events in Greece. Additionally, Lydia's surname was formally changed from Anagnostopoulos to Crouch to honor her mother's memory and distance her from her father's actions too. Lydia's Greek grandparents have been granted limited contact, with just 1 hour of access via Skype or other electronic means each week. This decision aims to provide Lydia with a sense of normalcy and security as she grows up. Caroline's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the dangers of domestic abuse and the importance of recognizing red flags in relationships. In the description below, I've provided important safety tips and resources and links to foundations and support groups for anyone who may be experiencing abuse or is aware of someone in an abusive relationship. It's essential to reach out for support. Remember, you are not alone and there is help available. Thank you for watching today's video. Let's continue to raise awareness and be the voice for those who can't speak out. If you or anyone you know is experiencing abuse, please reach out to the resources provided in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share this video to help others stay informed and safe. Together we can bring light to the stories that need to be told. Until next time, stay curious, stay warm, and stay safe.